ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WAGERWIRE. WAGERWIRE is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, bring it higher.
Good afternoon, sports fans and fight enthusiasts from all around the world. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for Fight Night Fortunes. Good friend and colleague, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro at GamLou. Go follow him, of course, on the Twitter and check out his website at gamlou.com. This week, UFC Seattle. The headliner here, will CEJUDO get YaDONG as in the main event here? Couple good fights. I listen to Lou every Monday, which you should, of course, on the Sneak Deep podcast. And I love his passion. I love his insight. And as he says, this card is shrinking and shrinking here. But there should be some violence, some big boys in a big ring here. So we're going to have some good fun here. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It is free. Viva Tequila Seltzer. 6 flavors in all. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconuts. Atlanta Steaks and Seafood.com. Terry Smith, you outdid yourself about an hour before we just went live. I received a package, 2 boxes in all. I got New York strip filet mignon. I got some lamb chops. I got some lamb. I got some pork. I got some burgers. Terry, you're the best in the business. Head on over to AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. And if you need to talk to him, head on over to Facebook. Terry Smith, follow him, and he'll take care of the rest. So without further ado, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro.
Jeffrey, good afternoon, my friend. How we doing? We march on with another UFC event. We back them one right after another. It's great. We got a lot of eyeballs on us. We got lines are moving and percolating, and we got action on the UFC. It's a great time of the sports year because the UFC does get a few extra eyeballs on it.
And you've been telling me that since we first met. He goes, Jeff, we'll get through August and September, and then football comes, and we'll still be doing our cards here on Thursdays, but there'll be less eyes on that. But get past football, and boom. And as you said in your Sneak Deep podcast on Monday, wow, were the numbers moving on this card.
Yeah, we're seeing some action, and that's because there are people that don't have anything to bet now that football's void and created this huge vacuum. I'm not a basketball guy, but some people are, and they can be accommodated with nightly basketball, college and pro. But there's others that aren't so into that. And so they either go to hockey or they find their way into the UFC, which is fun.
I have to ask you, last weekend, opening weekend in college baseball. I know you're a big fan of that. Of course, Nebraska, Omaha, the Final 8 will be there. Did you catch a game or two, or are you just letting it simmer?
No, I won't really pick baseball up until they begin conference play, Jeff. And so I will say that a team like Arizona started in the top 20. They went to a tournament and they played teams like Mississippi State and Clemson and just got the doors beat off of them. And so while many will see that as a shortcoming for the team, I would tell you to understand that this is the first couple games of a season, just like the first 3 minutes of a basketball game mean nothing. The first series or two of the baseball season means nothing. What I take from Arizona getting ballyhooed is that who are they playing? They went to this tournament to play Clemson. They played Ole Miss, SEC, and ACC. Now this weekend they got A&M. They're doing exactly what they need to do to understand where they are, where they need to be, and where they have to start to play baseball come May when this thing goes into regional and super regional. I take great encouragement from any team right now. No team's out of it, and no team has solidified their way into it yet either.
Shout out to Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights, and of course, Miss Amber Hawley. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And me, two daughters, one graduate, one still at UConn. Big UConn Huskies fan, had some great success, obviously, the last 2 years in college hoops. Their baseball team, 2 years ago, made it to the super regionals and got knocked out by Stanford. Had a good run again last year, but their problem again is the length of their pitching. They can bat with anyone, but when you get into the cusp of the season against the powerhouses, those lineups there, if you don't have strong and long pitching, it's going to be, a shootout at the OK Corral. First one to 20 wins, Lou. And they too started out slow. Of course, you can't be playing baseball currently in Connecticut, so they jump on to the warmer climates, lose to Stetson, and had a couple other bad starts as well. So it's hard for most people, Lou, to really realize it's a 50-game season. It's a true marathon.
It's hard for people to realize, too, how difficult it is for a team north of Mason-Dixon to get traction, momentum, and any kind of force for their team before it's too late. I mean, before you look up and it's, middle of April when you can play baseball at Rutgers or when you can play baseball at Michigan or in Iowa City, it's almost time for playoffs. And all those teams below Mason-Dixon have had months to be playing outside in conditions, and it just gives them such a tremendous edge. It says a lot about the Connecticut program to get to regional, super regional level when they're above that Mason-Dixon line. Any of those teams make it to regionals, they've had a whale of a year. Any of those teams get to super regionals, they've done really, really well.
I have to ask you this question before we dive into Seattle here. There's a big, huge hockey game 48 minutes from my house at the Boston Garden. The Four Nations, USA versus Canada. Kind of the preview, hopefully, of next year in Italy and the Olympics. Any flair, any nothing, or it's just a pass?
I am one of the most passionate hockey fans that has ever been hatched. And for us to be able to get this tournament at this time and experience passion above the level of Stanley Cup playoff play, you heard me say it. Just go read any interview from these kids on either of these two teams. This is a bigger game than Stanley Cup games to these kids. They're playing for pride. They're playing for country. And for hockey to benefit from this exposure I'm so tickled for hockey because I love the sport. I'm selfishly tickled for myself and hockey fans to be able to watch this. And I'm tickled for fans that don't know a lot about hockey that are going to tune in because they're going to get to see the highest possible level of competitive hockey that you'll ever see in your life in this game tonight. And I got strong feelings on the game. Again, I am a gambler that takes and tries to take advantage of, I try and capture advantage. And to me, the way the U.S. came out in that first game with the 3 fights and the 3 days of accolades afterwards, and oh boy, all of a sudden the U.S. has beaten Canada. I think that manifests itself into tremendous pressure for the U.S. I believe that the easier coaching job by far is Cooper's and Canada's, because they got embarrassed in the last game, and the U.S. carried on, in my opinion, like they were the new saviors of hockey's world. And quite honestly, I find it really, really difficult to think that the U.S., with their injuries or without, is going to be able to match the intensity and the level of play that they had in that last game in this game. Consequently, I think Canada, the team that's got to figure out a way to get out of the back end, get some open ice, get some tape to tape puck passing, is going to do exactly that. And my feel is that the U.S. is not going to be able to catch up to Canada tonight. This is a Canada game. I'm on Canada, as you can tell, and I'm on them because I think the U.S. blew their wad in the first game, not keeping correct side of this second game.
You're preaching to the choir here. Andrew McGinnis, good friend, colleague that we do 2 shows together with, is in Boston as we speak. It was cheaper to fly from Halifax to Boston for this game than it was from Halifax to Montreal on Saturday. So he got the good game. I too echo exactly what you said. Great job by US on Saturday. The first 9 seconds, 3 fights. I wasn't sure if I was watching WWE or the movie Slapshot. I'm like turning around like, what's going on here? But I think you brought up some great points. And the fact of the matter that I don't think enough people have brought this fact up, Lou, is the one real edge that the U.S. supposedly has is behind the pipes. Hellebuck versus Jordan Binnington. Everything else, I think, goes to the Canada side. Well, Jordan Binnington, a handful of years ago, Game 7, when he was playing for St. Louis, beat the Boston Bruins in the Garden to win the Stanley Cup. So you can say what you want, people, about Jordan Binnington. He knows what it feels like, not just to be in a pressure situation, but to be in a Game 7 situation. And I think the key to this game is who scores the first goal and who scores the third goal. Vegas gave me that number where I thought it was a Canada number, and they think also it's going to be an under 5.5. And the one final question here, every game in the first period, Lou, has gone over the 1.5. Does the streak end tonight, or do you think this is a tight check and 1-0, 0-0 first period?
I got no clue. I don't have any. I don't really have any clue on the total. I see the 5.5 number that we've seen goals in these series. I would say it would tend to be lower scoring and tight. I tend to think that, I mean, I look at each team plus a goal and a half is in the 300s, but I'm tempted to just take each of them plus a goal and a half because I feel you're going to get a tight, close overtime game. And quite honestly, Jordan Binnington then isn't Jordan Binnington now. No. I was stunned at the choice that Binnington would be the goaltender. I hope it doesn't come back to bite Canada. Hellebuck in the regular season is without question the man. Hellebuck in the postseason isn't what Hellebuck is in the regular season. So I don't know that I give either team a very big edge in between the pipes.
Shout out to Mr. Smooth as he has to add 68 degrees here in Vegas. Mr. Smooth, thank you so much for that. I hope you're sharpening up that golf game, and good luck on the horses this weekend. UFC Seattle, 11 fights, 6 fights at 170 plus, 30-foot cage. As you like to say, big man violence here. 4 fights that you'd like to go over. The first one, Mr. Fili versus Costa. And I'm going to bring up some live odds here for you right now. And I have exactly, let me see here.
That's close to a pick.
almost a pick 'em over 2.5 minus 210, Lou.
Yeah, and so when we go to Asia, we want to know who the Asian fighters are. When we go to Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, we want to know who the Muslim fighters are. So when we go to Seattle, we want to know who the Washington fighters are or the Seattle fighters. On this card, we don't have any. We got two guys that are from Washington, and that's close enough. And in this first one, Andre Fili was born in Seattle. He remembers living in Seattle. There will be some connection to the crowd and Philly in this fight. So Fili will be considered the hometown guy, even though he works out now in Northern Cal. But he's from there, good fighter, long on experience, long, tall, rangy, well-rounded. And when I say very experienced, he's the older of the two fighters. And while he'll be a little taller and longer than Costa, he's going to be 6 years older at 34. He'll have a reach advantage. Costa, on the other hand, has done well in recent UFC fights, but he's a little bit, this is like his third or fourth UFC fight. He steps up considerably in level of opponent and the experience of said opponent for this fight. And this fight opened Fili minus 180, 200. Now it's close to a pick'em. I disagree with the move to Costa. I think this is a PhD in MMA fight, and I'm going to go with Fili here. And you get a nice plus number, plus one. Oh, excuse me. You're going to pay minus 105 to plus 105 on a pick'em that a guy that opened minus 200. I like Andre Fili for his experience and the hometown connection. If it's a close, tight decision, and we got a 2.5 rounder, shaded over 210, then I think we could get a little home cooking here. I'm all about Fili.
All right, a second fight here on the breakdown here. Kulaba versus Aslan. Currently, right now, Kulaba plus 150. Aslan right now minus 180. Over 1.5 rounds, Lou, around minus 115.
You put the IQ of both of these fighters together as far as IQ in a fight ring, and you're going to come up with almost a negative number. Aslan is from Turkey. He's a relative newcomer, has only had a couple UFC fights. Sorry about that, guys. Has only had a couple of UFC fights. And he is big, square, unbelievably strong, profusely powerful. And if he hits you, just the force of his punch can knock you on your side across the ring. However, he's not very fleet of foot, has very little footwork, has very little cardio. And in his last 5 or 6 fights, he hasn't gone into the second round but once. And he gasses terrible. So he's come to rely on, even though he's an accomplished wrestler, these big power shots. And he's come to rely on those, and that could be a two-edged sword. Now, his opponent, Ion Cutelaba, much like Fili in the last fight, is the man that is with way more experience in this fight. And while Aslan's 28, Cutelaba's only 31, has that experience, and Cutelaba is just going to have to stay on plan because he has the footwork. He's going to be the much quicker, faster man in this fight compared to Aslan, who's slow as evolution. The key with Cutelaba is he can't help himself to get into a firefight. And he's got to fight that urge and sell his soul to take this fight to the bell in round 2. Because at that point in time, Aslan's going to slow down considerably, and Cutelaba can absolutely paint his fence. I look for Cutelaba to follow the plan, to use IQ to get this fight into the second round, and then to completely just completely annihilate this slow, relatively inexperienced Turkish fighter who is very, very ready for this kind of a schooling, in my opinion. Kutelaba's in a great spot, and he's plus money.
Do you think the minus 115 for the over 1.5 rounds, with that kind of thought process, if you took the over, would you be afraid that Cutelaba almost in the second round got him before you got over that mark?
Yes, I would. I believe the Cutelaba plan is to get to second round. So I would look to the props, and they come out on DraftKings on Friday, fight to start round 2. And you can go that way and trim 2.5 minutes off of that over under.
I like where your eyes are there, sir. Fight number 3. Let's see what we got up here.
Co-main event, baby.
Allen versus Hernandez. Allen plus 270. Fluffy minus 340. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 210, Lou.
Look how fluent Jeff is using Fluffy for Hernandez. I just absolutely love it. And this is a rematch of a fight from 2018 where both these guys still weighed the same, 185 pounds, and fought, but they were young spring chickens, and Hernandez won a decision. Both have totally evolved since then. Allen's bigger, stronger, a full-grown man, but still struggles and can struggle with his IQ at times and doesn't do well unless he can, if he's backing you up and bullying you, okay. But if you can match him in the middle and push him back, he doesn't respond well to that. And that's exactly what Hernandez's game is. Forward pressure, unrelenting forward pressure, constant. And so these are going to be 2 Rams meet in the middle. Both are great grapplers. Should be interesting if they roll around on the floor. How that is going to look, I think it probably doesn't happen a lot. I think it stays on its feet. And there, Hernandez has a tremendous advantage. Because this is a 3-round fight like the first fight, I don't think we get a result that's much different than the first fight. I see Hernandez in a 3-round decision here.
All right, and then that leads us up to the main event here. 1 second here. Kudo versus YaDONG. Kudo now plus 220. YaDONG minus 215. Over 4.5. Actually, minus 270. Excuse me. Over 4.5 rounds. Lou now minus 215.
Henry CEJUDO, 2-time Olympic gold medal freestyle wrestler, the most decorated mixed martial artist, the most decorated professional fighter possibly in history. The guy has accolades out the wazoo, but he's 38 years old, fights as a bantamweight, used to fight as a flyweight, and at 135 pounds against a kid that's going to be 6, 7, 11 years younger than him. 4 undersized fighters that get to be 38. When you're 38 in a heavyweight, ain't a big deal. 38 in a bantamweight, and not only that, now you're going to rely on high energy exertion of wrestling, takedowns, high cardio output, and you're 38. I can't bet you if you're 38-year-old bantamweight going to fight that way. I can't bet you. Now, when I look at the Song Yadong price, when I see the fighter, I see a lot like when I see Weili Zhang against Suarez. Too low to the ground, too young, too focused, too strong, too prepared for this wrestler. But the price is too high. I'm not betting Yadong at that kind of a price because it's out of whack. And so for that reason, this fight becomes a pass or a watch for me. I'll make my money on some of these other moves. This one here, just I don't see any reason for me to try and venture into a guess when I really don't have a strong idea how this is going to go. I think that it's possible that Yadong could knock him out in 4 or 5. And I think it's also possible that Henry could find his back in 1 or 2 and he's dry and choke him out. So how about I watch and learn?
Yesterday, all over social media, the countdown, breaking news from Dana White. He was talking about UFC 314 in Miami. We're going to get jiggy with it at South Beach, either Saturday, April 12th or Sunday on the 13th. The 2 headliners, Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes, Chandler versus Paddy Power Pimblett. Any thoughts initially when you saw those 2 fights, and anything stick out to you?
I thought Dana's at his usual best when he's reacting to fighter news and setting the table for future fights. Volkanovski is in against Lopez is the fight everyone is expecting to see. That was made for the championship because Tupuria can't make that 45-pound weight any longer. He's just busted at the seams. So he's got to fight at 55. And so that's another whole discussion. Meanwhile, Volkanovski is starting to be an aged champ, still proud, still with great game. Is he got enough experience and guile to teach young Lopez the ropes? Lopez has been on fire and on an extremely rapid ascent to this title opportunity, and this should be a whale of a fight.
Anything on Chandler and Patty Power?
Yeah, gimmick fight that they're going to sell the Englishman with his mouth against Mike Chandler. If Mike Chandler can go out there and find him in the first round, he'll knock Patty out. And if he can't, Patty will find his neck and choke him out in 2 or 3.
Scroll has been going the whole time. Everyone here on X knows where to find you at Gamlu. Mondays, your Sneak Teep podcast. Tomorrow after the weigh-ins, the About Business podcast. But we always give you the final thoughts here on where you can find your website and all the good stuff that you do, Lou.
Go to gamblu.com to find everything out about me that you need. Testimonials are there, the sports I work, the fact that we contribute part of our proceeds to the San Xavier mission down south Tucson is another just important aspect of the work that we're trying to do here, trying to bring winners to any of the listeners listening to us. I do want to say thanks to Jeff. Thanks to Viva, Atlanta Stakes, and WagerWire, all the sponsors that allow me to come on and speak with you people each week. Thank you so much.
Well, we can't thank you enough. My Thursdays are my favorite day of the week. So everyone, please.
I'll tell Brady Cannon that. Now watch out. He's my buddy.
I tell you what, I don't know what I'd do without Brady. I have had 3 great years of golf. He's our golf guy. It's our bridge to Sports Grid. We are able to get on, talk some Sports Grid. I can't thank Brady enough. He's one of our longtime lifers, just as well as you're going to be before you know it, Lou.
Planning on it. Thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate everything. Thanks again for having me on. Let's pick up a few ducats on these fights, and we'll be back next week.
Yes, we will. Back at the Apex in Las Vegas, smaller cage, obviously a lot less people. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Lou Finocchiaro at Gamlu. We wish everyone a blessed day. Enjoy 4 Nations, 8 o'clock. See you soon.